Today I'm going to show you how to take a credit card statement that looks like this and turn it into something useful in NetSuite, like a journal entry to record these transactions. I'm going to show you a fast way, and then I'm going to show you a super fast way. Each one of these fast ways are going to be much faster than the standard NetSuite UI. So I'm going to copy the amounts and also the doing business as field from my credit card statement over to my journal entry. You notice I put the merchant information over in the memo field, and this is really for reference as we go ahead now and complete this entry. So at this point, I want to highlight that with NetSuite, this is not possible. You can't just take in the native NetSuite UI and copy a whole bunch of information and have it translate down into rows throughout a transaction entry. So we're already ahead of the game here. Now I just need to associate each one of these with an account. So here I can start typing in information and then press enter, and you'll see on the right-hand side over here, we're actually going to go ahead and do a lookup on that particular account. And when you're all done and you've got all your accounts settled in, you'll end up with something that looks like this. We're almost already set up to load this journal entry into NetSuite. Just a few more things. I've also created a custom field at the header level that allows individuals to run reports if they want to see, for example, all of the journal entries related to American Express, they can. So once I click inside the field over here, I can now choose from the pick list on the right-hand side that I want this to be populated with American Express all the way down. The pick list, by the way, just makes a live call out to NetSuite and gives a valid list of fields from that drop-down field. Now, these live on a custom form. In my case, the name of the custom form happens to be Ramsey. So again, I could either use the pick list or just type it in and we'll do that automated lookup. I can now drop this information all the way down. So I'm missing one piece of information here now. I'm missing the corresponding credit transaction. So I'm going to just go ahead and insert one row at the top. And we'll make sure we populate these as well. Now I just want to associate this with the credit card payable account. So I can start typing credit card, press enter. This will give me a list of matching accounts, credit cards payable. So the credit is going to be equal to the sum of all of these debits. So that's $3,030.72. I do want to show one thing, and this is something that our tool does that NetSuite doesn't. There is a credit in here. So if you look, there's a negative 1380 in the debit column. I'll point this out when we create this journal entry, that this will translate from a negative 1380 debit to a $13.80 credit. So we now have everything we need to push this information up to NetSuite. I do want to show one last thing, and I think this is really useful. In the entity field here, this is line level entity. If I choose American Express as my vendor here, we'll now be able to track this, and we'll know that if we look at the American Express record in NetSuite, we'll see this show up as a journal entry. Later, we can also record a payment against that credit card's payable, so we can write a check as well. And now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on Update, and I will choose All Rows. And you'll see that this journal entry is going to be created in just a few seconds. And we know this entry is successfully created because we'll see the internal ID return right here in green. So here we go, same internal ID all the way down. We now have an entire credit card statement created as a journal entry over in NetSuite. So let's switch over there and take a quick look at it. So here's that journal entry in NetSuite. So you can see we've got credit cards payable, $3,030.72 with a direct link to American Express. If I pull up the American Express vendor card and go to the transactions menu, you'll see that the journal entry here is associated with American Express. That's great. I can now actually come in and go to transactions, bank, write checks, and now I can go ahead and pay this American Express bill. So I'll come over here and I will choose American Express. And we'll use the credit cards payable account. And the amount was $3,030.72, and we're writing a check, and we'll just go ahead and click on Save, and then we'll come back to American Express, and you'll see how we complete the cycle here. So let's go back to American Express. Here's the two transactions, the journal entry as well as the check. Come over to the financial tab and you can actually see that there's no more balance due to American Express. So I hope you found that useful. I'm now going to show you how to actually do this in a fraction of the amount of time. So bear with me. In order to do this, I've set a few things up in advance and I've created a macro, and I'll run through this process. So the first thing I have is what I call a running list of vendors or merchants, and then their associated GL accounts. So this is anytime somebody new comes in on a credit card statement, and you'll see the macro handles, and we'll identify someone that's new so you can quickly add them. Then it's going to associate them with a particular GL account. And then this is important, we actually look up the internal ID for that account as well. And that comes from all of the expense accounts that are actually downloaded. So I've created a save search in NetSuite that I pull in here that gives me all of the accounts that are at type expense, gives me the account names, and then the internal ID. So all I do here is a lookup of the GL account. I pull in the internal ID for each one of these, and that gets processed through my macro. So let's come over here. Here's the journal entry template, and now I'm going to run the macro, and you'll see how you can do this super, super fast. So I'll go ahead and just click on macros. You could have a button that does this. This is kind of a quick and dirty demo. When I click on run here, it's going to go out just like that, super fast. It does a lookup pulls in all of the data from my credit card statement, associates each one of these merchants with the correct GL account, puts in the debits, etc. And anything that's listed with an NA would mean that either the line is empty, so there's no way to look it up. That's the case here. Or that there happened to be a new merchant that you would then need to come back, add it to the running list of vendors so that would work fast the next time around. So in this case, I just had an empty row at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and delete that empty row. And then at the top, I'm just going to go ahead and put in my credit card payable account. So you can see this is a formula that was inserted by the macro. I'm going to just come over here and type credit card and now associate this with my credit card payable account. And I'm going to grab American Express as the entity. So I'll start typing in American over here. So I'll choose American Express, and then I'll put in the corresponding credit, 3030, 72, and I can just give this a memo name if I want to, AP. So in roughly, I'm going to say, 30 seconds or so, once you've got this macro built, you can then run it every time you get a credit card statement in, and then come over here, go ahead and click on Update, choose All Rows, and then when you push this up to NetSuite, it takes about 10, 15 seconds or so to insert every single one of these lines as a journal entry, and then we'll wait for this to populate, and then we'll come back, grab the internal ID, and you'll see this new journal entry over in NetSuite as well. Okay, great. So now we can take this, we can take the internal ID 53196, come back over to NetSuite, and here's the new journal entry. You can see 53196 is the internal ID. So the exact same journal entry, 3030, 72. One last thing I'll show you, just a little trick. If you want to see, you can always click on refresh. And when I click on refresh, it's going to pull in the transaction ID that was assigned to this account, the date, and it'll also take all of these internal IDs and convert them into accounts. So if you didn't want to flip back over to NetSuite to look at that journal entry and check that the account names were correct, et cetera, you can also just go ahead and click refresh, and then you can come in here and you can verify that all the information is accurate. So there you go. That's a real quick way to take a credit card statement and convert it over into a related transaction over in NetSuite for tracking purposes. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this useful.